Welcome back to another clay video. Today we are going to make the stage Fall Ball from Fall Guys. The winner of the poll has been decided. Now, I forgot to put an ending date on the poll, so it's actually still going right now, but at the time of making this creation, Rock and Roll and Fall Ball were tied, so I thought I would go with my favorite of the two, which is Fall Ball. And I'll be honest, I was kind of hoping the whole time this was going to win. I really wanted to create this stage. There's not going to be a poll in this video though, because I want to wait for Season 2 to come out and see what types of new maps. I'm not quite sure if these Season 1 maps are going to disappear when Season 2 comes out, so we'll just have to wait for that and see before creating some more maps. We can use this blue piece here as sort of a stencil. This is a very good technique to use when you're creating multiple things that you want to be the exact same shape. For example, stars or squares, really any type of flat shapes like that. Let's press this together with our fingers a little bit. And we'll start working on over by the goals here. It slants in over by the goals, and I think this sort of just makes it a little bit easier for the ball to roll in instead of it just sitting on the field waiting. This technique I used on the yellow one worked a lot better than the blue one did. It was a lot less messy. Now let's start creating all of the goal lines here. We'll use this tool to mark it out, and then we'll just use this dotting tool. This will sort of dent in the field, and we'll fill this in with some white later. Now if you're unfamiliar with this game, this Fall Ball, it's basically just soccer, or in most countries, football. So you have to hit the ball into the other person's goal, and the team with the most points at the end continues on to the next round, which from what I've seen is typically the final round. There is, however, a little bit of a twist to it. Sometimes you get a football, an American football, and I believe this is worth 2 points, but it might also just be 1 point. And sometimes a golden egg comes down, and this is worth 5 points. So although it's pretty rare, if that comes down and you make it in, you're pretty much guaranteed to go on to the next round. As you saw there, I used that little cap to make this perfect circle. This was from a salt shaker. I looked around for a bunch of different types of caps and everything was either too small or too big, but this one ended up working perfectly. As you can see here, we're filling in all of these lines with the white, and when we flatten it down with our finger, it sort of just fills it in a bit better and makes it nice and flat. So let's take this bright purple clay and we'll start working on the goals. This looks like a good size here. And like I did with the other thing, we can use this stencil here to make the exact same shape again. Now we need to sort of hollow this out in a way, but we don't want to cut all the way down to the surface. So although this gets a little bit messy, we can fix this pretty easily with some tools to smooth it out. This modeling tool comes in very handy for things like this. And we'll do the exact same thing on the other goal. I know that most people hate Fall Ball, and I could see why due to the teams being sort of unfair in a way. If you get a bad team, you instantly lose. There's not much you can do as a single person to make sure your team wins. So I could see why it would be a kind of hated game in Fall Guys, but honestly, I really like this game. It's probably my favorite out of every game in Fall Guys. I know they've showed off some different games from the Season 2, but I'm curious if there's going to be a medieval version of this soccer. That would be pretty cool. Maybe they could add some different things to it. Now, there are these variations to these Fall Guys stages that they added recently. Like example for the Fall Guys, in the middle there's a spinner, or sometimes you can have hammers in your goal. This adds a different gameplay aspect to it, I suppose, but I like this original design the most. Here we have this purple slant that's going around the entire stage. This is pretty typical in different sports stadiums. I think this is basically so the ball can roll up it a bit, but also just doesn't fly out of the stadium. Now once we've cut that into shape, we can start smoothing it out just a little bit with our fingers. This is basically just to attach it to the stage, the field itself, so nothing comes apart. Now let's start working on the goals. I will admit, I was pretty skeptical of how I was going to create these. I was thinking I would have to use a lot of wires, and I'm really glad that I did not. Here we are creating the back plate. This just goes in the back of the goal. Let's secure that in there. We also have these little walls on the side. These were a little bit trickier to get in there, but I noticed after putting them in, the goal got much stronger and didn't really seem like it was gonna fall over. We have this top bar, which surprisingly doesn't need a wire. I really thought it would fall over. Now we can measure the length using this worm of clay, and we'll start creating the net. I will admit, I was surprised that this clay stands up in the net form. I really thought I was going to have to either paint wires or maybe use a 3D pen, but I didn't really have the right color filament, so that wouldn't have worked. Here we're just doing these beams going across here. And let's remove it from the table. And we can see how well this goal works. And surprisingly, it looks really nice, and it stays up pretty good by itself too. So now we can do the exact same thing on the other side for the blue goal. After figuring out how everything worked the first time through with the orange goal, this one was super quick to create. We have the net on the top here. Now our goals are complete, so we can move on to our next step, which is these little support beams that hold up the fence that goes around the entire stadium. And in the middle, where the color transitions from the orange to the blue side, they have the split where it's both the colors into one pole, so we'll create that here. And we need 2 of those, one for each side of the stadium. Now we can use these worms of clay. This is the same thing we did when we created Jump Club, and this will be the wall, the fence that goes around the entire stadium. We have this orange one here, we'll get that onto the baking tray, and then we have the blue one. I'm using the knife here to sort of just straighten everything out. Here's the blue one. And we are ready to get baked. After baking, we will assemble the entire stadium using our trusty super glue. Now I know I typically create everything and then super glue it all together, but I thought it was a nice change of pace to create the stadium first and then we'll create our little fall guys. So I've cut these to be the exact same length as each other, so they'll get just about to the end of the goal, so we have a little room to stick that little post in there. Not that it's actually necessary in here to hold up the fence, but it adds a nice extra little detail to the stage. And our stadium is complete, so let's push that to the side and start creating our little fall guys. Now, I purposely created this stadium much bigger than the Jump Club one because I wanted the fall guys to be bigger. How small they were in the last video was almost impossible to create any type of costume with them, but in this bigger scale that I'm doing, which is still extremely tiny, I'm able to create some different costumes. So first we're going to make the pigeon here. We have the black here for the eyes. And for the little pigeon eyes on the top here, this will be for creating the arms here. If you guys let me know in the comments what your favorite costumes are, the next Fall Guys stage I make, I can add in some of those costumes. I was kind of short on ideas because I don't really use very many different costumes. I'm typically the hot dog when I play, or sometimes the pigeon. So I kind of didn't really know what else to create for this one, but in the next one I'll do some different costumes as well. This is going to be the dinosaur, the T-Rex. There's also a Triceratops, but we will not be creating that one. On the side here we have the eyebrows of the dinosaur. I think this costume is pretty cool. Sometimes I do play with this one as well. And now on the back we have the purple spikes. I think it's pretty interesting that the yellow team, or orange team, I'm not quite sure which it is, uses purple on their costume for the spikes. I guess it's a nice little change, it brightens up the character a little bit. I've seen some other different costumes that they use different colors. That's sort of strange, like when you are facing off, when you have the yellow and also the red team. When someone plays as the pineapple, it's quite hard to tell which team they're on. So here our complete yellow team is done. Let's get them onto the tray. And we'll start working on our blue team. Now for this one, I decided to go with the pirate hat. I don't actually have this costume. I've never actually seen it in the store either, but I don't play it every day, so I'm sure that I missed it at some point. And let's cut the top of his head a little bit shorter to fit the hat. And I think this one looks pretty good. This is a pretty cool hat. It kind of looks like a cowboy hat, but either way, it's a nice hat. Now we are going to create another pigeon for the blue team, and we will have these pigeons battling each other later on. And now we just need the beak. I've created 2 costumes for each team, and then the rest of them are just typical Fall Guys. I think this was a nice change as compared to my last video where they were basically all just normal Fall Guys. It's pretty hard to create them at this tiny scale, but being able to create at least 2 costumes for each team was pretty satisfying. Using this really thin, flattened down black clay, we will start creating all of the different shapes we need for the soccer ball. Now, this was another aspect that I was pretty skeptical of creating. I thought I would probably have to end up painting them on, but it worked out really well with this clay. Here's our soccer ball, so let's start placing all of our black pieces on here. I flattened them down quite a bit with my finger too to sort of make them blend with the level of the ball. And I know there's different patterns to a soccer ball, but I just kind of put them on here randomly and I think it looks pretty good. So here's our soccer ball. And we need one more thing, the American football. Because I know I was going to hear from you guys in the comments about why did you only create soccer balls? Why didn't you create the American football or the golden egg? So here's to all of you who would have been unsatisfied by not creating this. We have this stitching on top of the ball. This is pretty easy to create with this worm of clay. And now we can toss our football onto the baking tray. Oh no, our Fall Guy! And we are ready to get baked. After getting baked, we can test out our new field. And it looks like I did not make the soccer ball small enough. I guess I should have tried that out, but they're not going to be going in the goal anyway. Hey, at least the football goes in there. Using our trusty super glue, we can start attaching everything onto our field. We have the yellow guy for the goalie. We have this yellow guy just randomly grabbing the blue team. We have our pirate hitting the football. And our pigeon trying to stop him. And our other pigeon battling him, holding him back from the football. We have the blue goalie. This yellow dinosaur doesn't really know what he's doing over here. He's just kind of standing. Let's use this tack here. This is going to be to make the hole for the wire. Luckily, this tack is the exact same width as the wire, so that worked out nicely. Let's trim that down. And we're going to do the same in the soccer ball, make a nice hole for it. And this should hopefully slide right onto the wire. And now, I thought it was pretty cool, because I love jumping up at the ball and hitting it, to have these Fall Guys battling in the air for it. And it is finally completed, so here it is, guys! Fall Ball from Fall Guys. I hope you all enjoyed the creation of this awesome Fall Guys stage. Don't forget to check out some of my other Fall Guys creations in a playlist up here. And I will see you all in the next one.